Using prompting effectively is critical for the learners that we work with and for their success. So let's talk about the hierarchy of prompting so that we can use prompts as effectively as possible. So prompts really are a way to guide our learners to the correct response. So if you think about the typical learning trial, so there's the stimulus, the response, the behavior, and the response. Did I get that right?
No. There's the stimulus, the discriminative stimulus, there's the behavior or the response, and then there's the reinforcement or punishment.
Right. So what prompt that we're talking about is going to be after the stimulus. So after the instruction, after the presentation of the material, that's what we're referring to as a prompt. It's before the response from the learner.
Excellent. I like the way you put that into simple terms. I don't like talking about like discriminative stimulus. Can we just call it an instruction?
Forget the term.
I know. Call it an instruction. So right after the instruction, you're going in with a prompt if you need to. Prompts are typically based on prior history, right? So if you can predict that your learner is going to error, that's when you want to put in the prompt. And the reason you want to put in a prompt before your learner errors is so that they don't get a chance to practice errors. And, a story that I always tell about prompting, and I'm laughing at this because Shira and I tell the exact same story and we argue about whose story it actually is, but it's driving from point A to point B. So, if I or Shira apparently gets lost, if I'm going to someone's house for the very first time and I get lost going there and I take a back way in and I figure out how to get there eventually, the next time I go without my GPS, I'm probably not going to go directly from point A to point B. I'll probably go off memory and make that same mistake again and go around the block a couple times before I actually get to their place. And that's what we don't want to happen with our learners when they are learning something. We want them to go directly from point A to point B and get there the most efficient way. So that's why we prompt, is so that they don't get a chance to practice those errors and build that into their regular routine.
We're basically teaching them what the correct response is. So we don't expect them to know, and we don't want them to guess, and we don't want them to learn the error. So if we're going to ask them, which one says moo, and we know that they don't know it, then let's help them get to the right answer. Well, it's the cow that says moo. And that doesn't have to be intrusive. It could be something like only having the picture of the cow out. And, that's the only option. It could be something like the picture of the cow is much closer than the other pictures. It could be that the picture of the cow is much bigger than the other pictures. It could be that we're pointing to the picture of the cow. So there's many ways for us to help prompt the learner towards the right response in a way that helps learning and makes it, somewhat enjoyable for them.
Absolutely. We want to model as much as possible. I mean, think about when we're not teaching and we're just playing with, your own child or your niece or your nephew or, your friend's kid, something or other, you're constantly modeling, right? So, Shira said, there's ways to teach that a cow says moo. And another one of those ways is to actually like play with a farm set or be at a farm and be like, hey, look, it's a cow. Check out that animal. It's a cow. It says moo. A cow says moo. And through that repetition and that modeling is another way to teach that. So you want that constant repetition and you want kids to feel successful.
And prompts are not all or nothing either. There's so many ways that you can prompt. And the general rule that we say is the least amount of prompting required to make the student the most successful. So there's a whole hierarchy of prompts and some starting more intrusive and going into less intrusive. So there are, physical prompts that would guide the learner. If they're learning how to print, you may put your hand over their hand and help guide them to print the certain letters. That would be a physical prompt. All the way through to like partial physical, verbal prompts, gestures, and the least intrusive prompt is usually something visual. Those types of prompts you may never need to fade. It could be positional, like I said, putting the cards differently or pointing. So if you're teaching and you think that your learner doesn't know the answer, then you want to choose the prompt that is going to be the least intrusive. So you may not start with a physical prompt. Maybe they just need a point or they just need a gesture. And that will make them the most successful. So, if the gesture wasn't effective, then you may go into a partial physical or a model or a full physical and moving up that till you get success. But you don't want to start with the most intrusive. And then you want to be able to fade your prompt throughout. So instead of waiting, 10 trials of success at this prompt level, we often don't put prompt levels into our teaching steps. Because unless the student really needs it, if a student is able to, we want you to fade that prompt as quickly as possible. Like get in, make the gesture and get out. Like, don't then teach them 10 trials with that gesture prompt. Gesture a couple times, teach them a couple times, and see if you could fade that as quickly as possible. And that's really just good teaching. For more information on the prompt hierarchy, click the link on or around this video or in the description to claim your free prompt hierarchy visual. We also encourage you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos, and leave a like and comment below if you have further questions.